What's going on, fellow A pluses? It's your boy Adam Perez. I'm back once again with a brand new video today as we are set to finally tackle episode number 4 of Daredevil Born Again. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe this upcoming Tuesday it's going to be a little bit of a double feature. I think episodes 5 and 6 will both be dropping certainly at once. So interesting release schedule, but I have a feeling the way that this season is kind of going that the drop of episodes 5 and 6 probably work together really well from a narrative and storytelling purpose. So I am kind of curious to see what they do with these next couple of episodes. If I got to be honest, man, one thing that I love about this Daredevil Born Again show is that it spares nothing when it comes to the emotions and the quality of some of these scenes that we wind up getting. It's interesting that I remember reading an article of the showrunners in here talking about the idea that they have sort of what differentiates them from the Netflix stuff is that, they don't have a lot of sequences or scenes that they wanted to cut out where you've got, I think he mentioned the idea of like Matt Murdock or them kind of sitting around talking about defining what it means to kind of be a hero, right? The way that they talked about it kind of felt like they were going to take out some of the long monologues or the heavy dialogues and some of the character growth, if you will. But 4 episodes in, man, that is certainly not the case, especially with the interaction that we wind up getting between Matt and Frank in here. So I am glad that they haven't necessarily departed too far from that, and we are still getting sort of the really great dialogue and impactful sort of scenes that really help this not only season grow, but these characters grow also. So yeah, I mean, not to say that this feels exactly like the Netflix series because it certainly doesn't, but I've really enjoyed the balance that I think that we've gotten for a little bit of everything in here. But yeah, this episode especially did not spare any emotions whatsoever. So let's go ahead and talk about episode number 4 here this week. And when I say emotions, two things that come to mind for me: the great performance by the niece in here of Hector Ayala as she winds up coming to view the body of her uncle, which Matt certainly doesn't allow her to. But the raw emotions that this actress expresses, like, really just hit me in the core. You know what I mean? Her understanding exactly what's kind of going on here, the idea that this man walks away free, gets an opportunity to go back to being a vigilante only to get popped, sort of thing. So she knows there's some dirty cops out there. Matt is certainly not stupid also, but what is she supposed to do? You know what I mean? So I am fascinated to kind of see where this goes. I am hoping in the comic books, I think it's Hector's uh, daughter, or not daughter, sister, that winds up becoming the White Tiger. I am kind of curious if that's something that's explored either by the end of this season or by end of season 2 also, because the way that they've talked about it in interviews, it feels like seasons 1 and 2 are very much connected, like it was meant to be one long season, but they decided to chop it up into 2. So maybe some pieces that finish in season 1 or get I don't know what the season finale is certainly going to look like, but maybe it builds up even further when we get to something like a season 2. So, the appearance here of the niece being as emotional as she is, maybe that leads us to eventually being introduced to the sister of Hector Ayala and bigger things in store for the White Tiger character. That I certainly don't know, but from an emotional standpoint, that hit me. And then the interaction between Frank along with Matt in here hit me. First off, it's so great to see freaking John Bernthal back, man. I read an article here this week that he turned down coming back to Daredevil Born Again initially, after he was revealed plans as to how they were going to use his character before they wind up sort of doing all the reshoots and the reworking of the series itself. It goes to show you that John Bernthal is very protective of the Frank Castle character, and if he comes back, he wants to do it right. And he did it right this time for sure. I'm so glad he decided to go ahead and go back to Frank Castle's roots and able to get John Bernthal in here, because this is just an incredibly impactful scene, really tapping into the guilt and the shame that Matt Murdock is kind of expressing. The idea that he even goes to Frank a little bit, even though he's tries to hide his true intentions. The idea that he goes to Frank alone certainly says something in here, and I'm glad that it was Frank that is able to kind of get that emotion out of Matt and allow him to get some of those get some of that guilt that he's certainly been feeling out of him. I literally jumped out of my seat when Matt came back and bitch slapped him across the face real quick. I was not expecting that reaction whatsoever, but it is interesting to see Matt kind of hold himself back and not want to go sort of that extra mile. And I think it certainly says a lot about Matt's journey this season after not wanting to be Daredevil after the death of Foggy in here. And also, again, we talked about this when he had the opportunity to sit in the jail cell with Hector, saying, "Look, man, maybe you should put up the white tiger mask. You know, you'll be surprised as to how much you don't miss being that character." And I said, "Look, I think that's a lie. Like, I'm sure Matt misses being Daredevil, maybe not in the right reasons, but I'm sure he wants to go back and be that character." And so, look, to me, I think this interaction here with John Bernthal, with Frank Castle is an interesting one that I think pushes him to want to get ready to become Daredevil again. Understands the idea that him just trusting in the system is certainly not enough, if you will. And I think this will definitely lead Matt down a dark path for sure, but I am curious if he's going to be able to manage to find any sense of balance between his emotions and also providing justice in the most maybe violent way that he can. But providing justice certainly nonetheless. You know, one of the things that I love about this show, and especially this episode to me really challenged sort of the system, if you will, the judicial system and how things certainly work. You know, whether it's the gentleman that Matt had to represent in this episode, you know, Matt being challenged with the idea of, is the judicial system working the way that it should to prevent people from going back down those same roads over and over again, or is it just performing sort of the same outcome, right? Like, you've got that challenge of the judicial system, but then you also have got the challenge of the idea, and this is something that Frank and Matt talked about, was the idea that, yeah, Matt wanted Bullseye to face the law. And even though, yes, he winds up getting life in prison, first off, the line of from Frank, you know, did Foggy get life? I'm like, I choked up. Like, I literally teared up seeing the raw like emotions of Matt Murdock with the realization of just missing his friend genuinely and talking about the goodness that is in fact Foggy. And while Foggy doesn't get life, Bullseye does. But what kind of life is Bullseye getting? Right? I mean, the guy gets free meals. He gets cable television for free every day. The man gets to work out in the gym. Yeah, he's surrounded by other people, but he's literally walking around in prison, getting a much better life than Foggy certainly ever got. Right? And so there is like a questioning of the judicial system and if it's working or not the way that it certainly is. I think for me, one of the lines from the person that Matt was providing for in here, you know, the idea, he says the court systems literally pay 5 times the amount it takes to keep me in prison than it does for like what I stole, sort of thing, right? Or no, he says of it pays 5 times more to keep me locked up than it is just to kind of feed me, sort of thing, right? And it does make one wonder, when you continue to put somebody in the system that way, when you deprive them of being able to either get a job or to be on time for other hearings or for other opportunities that would allow them to kind of succeed, you know, are you just kind of continuing that cycle, right? I mean, can you imagine a court system where, especially for something like petty larceny, in the sense of, hey, instead of paying all this money to keep him behind bars, why don't you spend half that money and give this guy a gift card or like a Visa card to go ahead and buy him some house essentials or food essentials to certainly kind of get by and live a little bit of a better life, sort of thing. But look, man, the judicial system, the prison system is all very sort of lucrative. They want to continue to put you in prison and behind bars so they can continue to certainly make money in here. And so I really appreciated Daredevil's this particular episode of Daredevil really challenging the system a little bit in the sense of, even if it's something from petty larceny to something as intense of, killing another person, do the outcomes seem fair? Are we doing this sort of system correctly, or does it need to be challenged? And I'm glad that Matt got challenged in several ways here in this episode, from something as small as that to making him rethink the idea of putting back on his mask to go ahead and get justice in a way that maybe the system certainly just can't. And I do love also, I continue to love the little vignettes that we get from New Yorkers. The perspective of one guy saying, we need these vigilantes. Hell, if I was young enough, I'd be a vigilante sort of right now. So there is clearly a hunger for people to be protected by vigilantes because they know that the system isn't working, or that there are plenty of corrupt and bad cops certainly out there. And that's one of the things that I love about this show, is that it separates it differently from Netflix, is that I feel the New York in this show. And as a New Yorker originally myself, like, it takes me back home, the feeling like I'm walking down the city streets again, sort of thing. And I really love the fact that it feels grittier and certainly down to earth and more impactful on a citywide level than what we wind up getting certainly before. But yeah, the Frank stuff is incredible. I love the idea that he's like, look, I'm not into this dressing up as Halloween kind of bullshit sort of thing, right? Like, I'm not gonna, try and save other people's lives. I'm gonna do what I need to do to get to the core problem of the situation, and then I'm gonna kill him. I am kind of curious as to what he's certainly working on right now. It seems like he was certainly in the middle of something. I mean, like, he's been doing something, because Homeboy was looking battered and beaten and broken. So Frank has definitely been into something. But man, just the interaction between these two, I could probably put this on repeat 4, 5, 6 times, and just feel the intensity between these two and just the emotions that they wind up bringing. And I love that we have somebody like Frank Castle to definitely challenge Matt in regards to figuring out how to handle whatever situations that he certainly might be in. And it definitely feels like it certainly woke him up. So I do expect there to be a team up of some sorts. Clearly, Frank is not going to sit idly by while some corrupt and bad cops and officers kind of use his insignia to go ahead and get justice certainly their own way, if you will. He's like, all these damn fanboys. But yeah, it certainly worked for me. So I definitely expect a little bit more of Frank Castle in the next couple of episodes for sure. We also get our very first look here at the serial killer in Muse. We see him in the beginning carrying a body, and then seeing him messing around with that same body towards the end. Looked like he was certainly drawing some blood from him. So I am kind of curious if there's a connection to that. We see his name kind of graffitied on the wall in here. If you're looking for like little Easter eggs, I remember seeing like a white tiger mural, which I thought looked pretty cool also in here. But I am curious to see how Muse will play a role as we get into like the last 5 episodes of this particular show. So we'll definitely see. Last but not least, first off, just quick honorable mention. Matt is such a smooth talker, man. I mean, Matt knows what he's doing. I mean, the fact that he gets the opportunity to like um smooth talk another lawyer in here to try and get probation for the guy that he's certainly defending in here. I mean, the vibes are crazy between these two. I mean, the way that she was just eyeing this man down, knowing that he's blind and can't see the reactions that she's giving him, but the whole entire time, I mean, she's literally undressing Matt with her eyes. I mean, she's really into this guy, but he just knows how to like play it up, and is just a smooth talker and such a ladies man sort of thing, right? Like using his little little senses and stuff to kind of peel the layers off for some of these women. And I mean, the guy just scores with like so many so many incredibly beautiful women. I mean, the list just goes on and on. But leave it up to Matt, man. They just have that charisma about him, and that women's radar, man. I mean, he continues to get the hottest chicks in New York City for sure, and gets to come home to one late at night now in this episode, which I thought was pretty incredible. But yeah, the Matt Murdock stuff and him being a womanizer just continues to make me laugh. It's just a Matt thing, man. It's just a Matt thing. But last but not least, the Kingpin. Look, I really enjoy the Kingpin storyline in here. I don't know if people are complaining or if they feel like Kingpin has certainly got softer. I really enjoy the Mayor Fisk stuff in here. I love the fact that both the meetings that he went to, whether it was the school or the Latvia conference, that they're both singing the same song. Like, who came up with that idea? Like, were they passing memos? Like, did he have to hear this song like a third or fourth time at other stuff that he wind up? I mean, talk about just like drill a hole in my head already. Like the idea of him being a mayor and all the baby kissing and shaking hands that he's got to do, the monotony of it all. Like, you can literally tell it's really getting to this man. I don't think he likes being mayor, but I think he definitely loves the power that it certainly gives him. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was funny in here to just kind of express the monotony of it all for Wilson Fisk. But if anything, I think especially when it comes to the character Daniel, I do find it fascinating of somebody who is just this diehard loyalist. I don't want to say like, oh man, this guy has all the makings of like a cult member sort of thing. But even the idea of him messing up and profusely apologizing to somebody like the Kingpin. I mean, even in this episode, he literally confesses to his friends, like, no, I legit love this guy. Like, I love everything that he stands for. Look, the idea and like even what Kingpin said, loyalty and courage will get you a lot of places. And despite the idea that the Kingpin was ready to go ahead and say goodbye to him, he decides to keep this kid around. He understands how difficult and hard it is to find somebody that's willing to, I don't want to say die for you, but I think Daniel probably would if he asked him to, literally would do anything for you in order to make things right. And so, and admit that he's certainly wrong. I do wonder if there's some senses of this feels like his former guy. Was it James Wesley or the Wesley guy from the first season of Daredevil? He seemed really attached to the guy, but that's sort of the same vibes that I get from Daniel, that he's willing to be that new James Wesley, if I'm pronouncing his name right, from the first couple of seasons. And I think Kingpin recognizes that and is willing to go ahead and have somebody like him around because he's just going to continue to grow and get better at his job, but most importantly, loyal. And there's just a lot of things in this storyline between his supporter, the guy Daniel, and Kingpin that I think kind of echoes in today's society, sort of the unflinching loyalty and keeping up your blinders sort of thing in order to protect somebody in such a high power sort of thing. So I am glad that got harped on here a little bit. And the Vanessa stuff also, I find pretty fascinating. We get to see that he has managed to kidnap Adam after having a tough conversation with him. I mean, the guy's got a beard and long hair. I do wonder exactly like how long he's had this talk with Adam, like how long ago he had this talk with Adam. But she continues to say that you were gone for a long time. I wish that they would explain what kept Kingpin away, because there's a part of me that's thinking like, was it the blip? Because if I remember in Hawkeye, he mentions the idea that he got blipped for 5 years. So I'm wondering if this affair happened during the blip or his recovery process from the gunshot to his head, or maybe both. Like maybe he never got the opportunity to see Vanessa after he came back from the blip and everything wound up happening so fast. So maybe the blip on top of just the bullet shot, or maybe it was one of the other. I wish that they would kind of clarify that. I don't know why they haven't even name dropped the blip in here also, unless it is in reference to him recovering from the bullet wound to his head, sort of thing, the gunshot to his head. So I would like a little bit more clarity on that. But yeah, when it comes to forgiveness, that is definitely not a strong suit for the Kingpin, as we get to see in here. And I do love too that he wind up managing to keep the painting that Vanessa loved also dearly, with his blood stain certainly still on it from the last time that he faced off against Daredevil. I mean, it's got to be a crazy ass reminder to go into that room every day and see that painting, right, and just have that animosity and resentment towards Matt Murdock this entire time, sort of thing. So this clearly signifies Kingpin is still who Kingpin is. Maybe he's gone through some eye-opening experiences in his life to make him handle certain emotions a little bit better, right? I mean, Adam should be thankful his head hasn't been crushed in a car door right now, or something else extremely violent. So clearly the Kingpin has changed, but certainly still as ruthless as it comes in his own way. But I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing so far, man. I really am. I think this series continues to hit on something special here. I really love the way that this show continues to be shot. The lighting really works for me. Yeah, man. Like, I know we're gonna get more Daredevil as this season goes, but they make these episodes so compelling even without seeing the character in here, that I'm always on board for this ride. And it was really cool to kind of see the different helmets designed in here, as he decides like he's gonna take up this mantle of Daredevil, certainly once again practicing with his bow sticks. I don't even know what that thing called with the dagger at the end that he was messing around with. Got to see the opportunity of other helmets that he's been wearing his whole entire sort of timeline as Daredevil. Even with that like stealth suit, the all black helmet looked really crazy to me also. So I'm eager to see what they do with the rest of the couple of episodes. But episode 4, another fantastic one, guys. But look, at the end of the day, these are simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. What did you guys think about episode number 4? If there's anything that I missed that you want to talk about, or if you want to elaborate more on, I definitely would love to know your thoughts in the comment section box below. But until then, do me a big favor, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.